So welcome to the second half of our Sangha Morning. And if you're watching this on YouTube, welcome to you as well. As we have heard in the last 2 weeks, spiritual friendship is at the heart of the Sangha. The ideal of spiritual friendship is a beautiful ideal and something we as spiritual Buddhists aspire to and practice. But there is something more, another ideal that pervades the Sangha and makes the Sangha beautiful. And that ideal is the 4 Sangraha Vastus, or the means of unification of the spiritual community in Sangharakshita's translation. That term is translated in many ways throughout the traditions, including our own. My favorite translation is the 4 characteristics of attraction. So that's my topic this morning, the 4 characteristics of attraction, the means of helping to form a spiritual community. And I will also, in the course of my talk, to dip into the Sigalavada Sutta. It will become obvious while I'm bringing that sutta in. Sangrahavastu is a Sanskrit word, well, compound actually. Sangraha means a collection, store, accumulation, gathering, protection of qualities. And vastu means the site or foundation of a house, among other things. The Pali equivalent is Sanghavattu, and the Pali canon source for this teaching is the Sanghavattu Sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya. The sutta itself is very short, and it doesn't really give us much more than just the 4 qualities. This became a more substantial teaching of the 4 Sangrahavastus in the Mahayana context. So some of you will be familiar with the 6 perfections, the 6 paramitas, from Mitra study perhaps, or some other reading. And you may also know that there is also a set of 10 paramitas. And the 4 Sangrahavastus are included in the 7th of those, in the perfection of skillful means. So this is just my preamble, getting to the substance of my talk now. So Harsharatna, would you show the first slide? That these are the 4 characteristics of attraction, means of unification, giving, loving speech, beneficial activity, and exemplification. And in the Sanghavattu Sutta, the Buddha called these Sanghavattus the linchpin of a rolling chariot. And I assume that the chariot is the Sangha, and it's rolling because it's active. And so the linchpin, the center of this rolling chariot, this active Sangha, is the 4 Sanghavattus. So the first one then is giving. Now, those of you who have heard about the 6 perfections, or read about them or studied them, will remember that the first one is giving or generosity. It's the dana paramita. So how come we have it here again? Well, I hope that will become clear when I go into that first characteristics a little more. So Sangharavaccha says that that the Sangha is characterized by the constant exchange of gifts amongst its members. So he talks about giving as a form of communication. And this giving is a spontaneous process. These gifts are not given in return for anything. They're just simply given because you like the person and you want to be their friend. So this giving of gifts is a way of strengthening the Sangha. But there isn't any calculation in it, like, well, if I give gifts, people will like me, or even, so I'm going to give gifts in order to build Sangha. This giving that we are talking about here is much more natural and straightforward, informed as it is by wisdom. So that seventh paramita that I mentioned, which includes the Sangraha Vastus, comes after the Prajna paramita, the perfection of wisdom. So this giving we are talking about here then is no longer mundane, like the first paramita on generosity, dana paramita. This is transcendental. So moving on then to this loving or kindly speech. I would like to think that in the context of the Sangha, speech is always affectionate and pleasant. However, this quality of attraction, this loving speech, is an expression of transcendental wisdom. And so for those of us who haven't gained such wisdom, our speech isn't always loving. I think it's important just to note here that this Sangraha Vastu is not meant to promote superficiality or insincerity in our speech. But loving speech is not always pleasing to hear for us. Sometimes we are not initially pleased to hear the truth, for example, but maybe afterwards feel grateful that someone has taken the trouble, the time, had the courage to speak out about something, even at the risk of unpleasantness or falling out. What definitely is pleasant to hear, and we don't always tell these things to each other, is when someone tells us they like us or they rejoice in our qualities, and particularly when they delight in our spiritual potential. So thirdly, we have beneficial activity. This is activity that helps others to grow spiritually. It may be teaching, it may be giving talks, it may be helping practically, but it may not be any doing at all. Beneficial activity could just as well be just inspiring others. Well, there's nothing just about inspiring others. It could be being positive. It could be conveying the excitement of the Dharma, communicating, as Sangharachita puts it, the sheer adventure of the spiritual life. And beneficial activity is said to be the candle from which other candles are lit. And then fourthly, we have exemplification. Now, every order member, I'm sure, tries hard to be a perfect order member. And in my experience, we all fail, at times at least. Being an exemplar is a responsibility order members take seriously, and often we have to admit our fallibility in this. But of course, exemplification is not limited to order members. We can all be exemplars for others and embody our spiritual ideals. In fact, That is all that is required. We simply embody the process of transformation. Someone fully living the Dharma life is an inspiration for others. So also when we are honest about our failures, that too can be inspiring. The word for exemplification is samanattata, where saman means equal or the same, suggesting that exemplification includes treating others the same as ourselves. So I think if the Sangha has these 4 characteristics of attraction, it will be united by its common aim of practicing the Dharma, and it will also attract others to join that Sangha. So in his talk, in his personal talk last week, Silanatha referred to the Sigalovada Sutta. So he talked about some of the qualities of a friend listed in the sutta. So now I just want to say a little bit about the various qualities of friendship that we find in the Sigalovada Sutta. So Hashratna, can we have the second slide now? So here we are. The qualities of a good-hearted friend from the Sigalovada Sutta. And they are giving, courteous speech, helpfulness, and impartiality. And in case it hasn't immediately struck you, these are actually the same qualities as the 4 Sangraha Vastus. So the characteristics of attraction also apply to our friendships. And they would, of course, if friendship is truly the heart of Sangha. The Sigalovada Sutta is rather more explicit about these qualities than the Sanghavata Sutta. So in terms of giving, the sutta says that the good-hearted friend looks out for us and looks out for our wealth, is a refuge for us in a time of fear. And when we need something, our friend gives us twice over what we need. So this giving is clearly more than giving gifts or time or attention. This friend, this good-hearted friend, gives of herself or himself generously, unselfishly, and completely. So then the second quality on the Sigalovada Sutta list is courteous speech. I think courteous is not really quite what the warm-hearted friend does for us. Apparently, that friend restrains us from wrongdoing and guides us towards skillful actions with their speech. She or he tells us what we ought to know. And I think this is just so beautiful. Our friend shows us the way to heaven. And in terms of helpfulness then, apparently then the good-hearted friend guards our secrets, tells us their secrets, doesn't abandon us in misfortune, and even dies for us. So I wondered what these secrets were that the good-hearted friend keeps for us. Now, perhaps it's simply that we can tell this friend anything and can be sure that it won't go any further. Perhaps we don't want aspects of our life, perhaps some painful aspects, to become topics of Sangha gossip. And unfortunately, there is gossip in the Sangha. And so perhaps this friend is someone who doesn't indulge in that gossip and even has a good effect on those who do indulge in that way. Then finally, impartiality. So our good-hearted friend rejoices in our good fortune and doesn't delight in our misfortune. Our friend stops others speaking ill of us and encourages those who praise our good qualities. Well, I think that's not really describing impartiality. I think this friend is definitely in our corner. So if we bring even a fraction of these qualities of attraction to the Sangha, individually and collectively, if we all bring our special individual qualities, and then our Sangha will come to exemplify the four Sangraha Vastus. And I think our Sangha will indeed be full of attraction, a treasury of wonderful gifts. And we can liberally delight each other with those gifts. So thanks very much for listening. Thanks if you have joined us on YouTube.